In 1929, the intellectual epicenter of Europe converged on the Davos University conferences. At this high altitude, a massive philosophical fault line was beginning to move. The dominant neo-Kantian establishment, represented here by Ernst Cassirer, viewed Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason as a manual for scientific epistemology, a way to provide a logical foundation for Newtonian physics. Martin Heidegger countered with a radical thesis. He argued the critique was actually the first modern attempt to ground fundamental ontology, the study of being itself. Heidegger treated this text as an intimately personal, lifelong excavation project, documented in his private notes and culminating in his publication of the Kant book. Heidegger's reading suggests that the critique deconstructs the specific human architecture required to comprehend existence itself. Traditional metaphysics, or metaphysica specialis, sought to analyze infinite entities, God, the cosmos, and the immortal soul. Kant recognized that any audit of the infinite requires a prior audit of the tool doing the measuring, the human mind. A divine mind would be truly infinite. It would create reality simply by thinking it. But a human mind is finite. We are receptive, delivered over to a universe that already exists. This finitude means we require sensory organs. We must be affected by external things, because we lack the power to bring them into being ourselves. This creates a structural split in the finite mind. On one side is sensibility, which receives raw data. On the other is understanding, which spontaneously produces logical concepts. The central problem of metaphysics becomes a question of synchronization. How can these two alien faculties combine to generate a single unified experience? Heidegger maps Kant's text as a descent through 5 stages, moving from the surface of knowledge down toward the bedrock of subjectivity. Stage 1 isolates the components, placing space and time on the sensory side and logical categories on the intellectual side. Stage 2 reveals their incompatibility. Without a connection, thoughts remain empty and intuitions blind. Stage 3 must establish the legal right of internal logic to apply to external objects. Without an exchange mechanism, the mind remains fundamentally fractured. This gap brings us to stage 4, the transcendental schematism. Kant considered this the most difficult and vital chapter of the entire critique. The schema acts as a translation matrix, projecting a logical category into a temporal rule the senses can process. Substance translates into permanence over time, allowing the concept to latch onto sensory data. Stage 5 completes the determination. Conditions to experience an object become identical to the object itself. Reality exists as the synchronized output of this exact temporal translation matrix. As the excavation deepens, it reaches a layer that threatens the purely rational foundation of philosophy. Kant identifies a hidden root beneath the 2 pillars, the transcendental imagination. This is not the faculty of daydreaming, but a structural power that allows us to envision a world even when it isn't currently affecting our senses. Heidegger notes that because the imagination is both receptive and creative, it is likely the source of the entire structure. The 2 pillars of the mind are actually branches fusing into the single root. At its bedrock, human reason is fundamentally imaginative and sensual. If the imagination is the hidden root, what is it actually producing to make experience possible? To receive any external data, the mind must first provide a where and a when for that data to land. It must affect itself before anything else can. Kant calls this pure self-affection. Heidegger identifies this self-activity as original time. To provide the before and after, the imagination secretes the temporal horizon. Time is not an external clock. It is the rhythm of the human subject throwing open a horizon of comprehension. We are trapped in time because time is the very medium we generate to survive our own finitude. Disturbed by the idea that logic might be grounded in something as irrational as imagination, Kant famously altered the second edition of his critique to obscure this root. Heidegger insists on exposing it. Metaphysics is not just a system of books, it is the Seinsverständnis, the understanding of being, that happens within the entity who asks the question. Finitude is the requirement for metaphysics. Only a being that did not create reality, separated from the world, is forced to ask what it means to be. Heidegger calls this entity Dasein, the being whose existence is a problem it must actively solve. The critique of pure reason demonstrates that our entrapment in time provides the only mechanism that allows the universe to reveal itself at all.